So I just saw this video about Spookston talking about helicopters, and I figured I'll add my 2 cents.
Helicopters have been in War Thunder for a while now, and despite them being problematic for the vast majority of that time, I've been hesitant to talk about them.
Well, they're designed to be problematic. It's meant to just generate revenue for Gaijin at the end of the day. It's not balanced to be fun, it's balanced to make money.
As I've said before, I'm primarily a tank player.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Helicopters generally aren't that fun to get into at the moment. I mean, they are fun to play, but you have to invest so much time and, generally speaking, a lot of money. For example, the Soviet Mi-4, it's very bad to play when you first unlock it, but when you unlock the ATGMs, it can be quite useful in ground RB.
I do play planes with some regularity, but not enough to really consider myself an expert on their gameplay. Besides naval.
Oh, naval.
Helicopters are my least played vehicle type.
Well, yeah, that's because they're so grindy and just horrible to get into. Once you're into it, it's fun, but after that, it takes so much investment. Gee, I wonder why it's like that.
While helicopters have been the bane of my existence when I play tanks.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, to be honest, because a lot of times when I hear this, I often hear it's in regards of the KA-50 or the KA-52. It's rarely ever the absolute. It's never the Mi-4. All I hear is, it's always the KA-50.
I don't think it'd be fair to call them overpowered across the board.
Yeah, it's like it's only a select few, maybe 2 helicopters that are basically the exact same helicopter. Maybe they start with a K?
So to get a fully developed idea of the dynamic between tanks and helicopters, I tried to play helis a bit more. In addition to looking at the opinions of helicopter players, my conclusion was that helicopters aren't fun for anyone.
Yeah, I don't know what the context is behind this statement. I mean, when you got a helicopter that's fully spaded, it's a lot more fun than when you just unlock it. I mean, if you're talking about the process of unlocking it, and that's what you're referring to, then yeah, of course, it's going to be miserable. I mean, it's designed to be miserable, so you pay money.
They simply do not create gameplay scenarios that are fun or interesting.
Well, I mean, I guess it really depends on what battle range you're playing at. I mean, look at the clips I've been playing at. Some of them are quite interesting. I guess it really depends on what map you get and what sort of situation you choose to approach it from.
If you're just spawning in and a helicopter with rockets shows up, there's not a whole lot you can do.
I mean, they're loud machines, you can hear them coming, and there's only so many directions that they can come from. Just get your 50 cals on them and be ready. So many scenarios where I do well with a Cobra, for example, or with a KA-50, it's just people not being ready or paying attention. I mean, the best thing you can do to counter a helicopter that's going in for ground pounding is just pay attention and keep your eyes open. Have a plan in mind.
It might be too high up to shoot with your gun or machine guns.
Well, if you can't shoot them, then have a smoke round ready or use your smoke grenades. Just get yourself in cover.
Either that, or an ATGM heli could be camping your spawn later into the game.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say about that, to be honest. It's not really a scenario I really come across too often. I mean, if you're playing top tier, you should probably be spawning into an AA if it's sort of mid to late game.
As a helicopter, you'll usually get smacked right away by a SAM, at least if you spawn in later.
Well, it sort of really depends, really. I mean, if you have decoys, as I like to refer to them, basically dumb missiles, you can shoot down incoming SAM missiles very easily.
You could also get killed by some planes camping the helicopter base, or crash due to server issues.
Well, server issues are a common thing, but when it comes to aircraft camping your spawn, I mean, you just got to keep your eyes open and be ready to respond. If you've got a late tier helicopter, you can just lock onto them easily, and if you've got an early tier, well, you're basically not going to have a good time anyway.
In all of these scenarios, there is basically no room for counterplay. You are almost entirely at the mercy of the other player.
Well, if you're worried about SAM missiles, you just got to keep your eyes open, try and keep an idea of roughly where they should be coming from. If you see one come in, just spam your missiles towards it and it should explode and you'll be okay. And if you're being spawn camped, just keep your eyes open and make sure you do a quick little survey of the area above you and around you. Of course, if your AA guns are short, that means there's an enemy near you and you've got to do something about that. But generally speaking, you just got to have your air-to-air missiles ready if you have them. If not, you're ready to lock onto them. And if you don't have a helicopter that can lock on, then you're going to have a bad time.
I said earlier that helicopters weren't overpowered across the board, but there are definitely a few that deserve that title. The AH-1G, for example, is probably the most overpowered starter heli.
Yeah, I think it's because people don't really counter helicopters that often, especially when you're at 7.0 and this is the first time you're dealing with a helicopter. It's a new threat. You don't know how to deal with it. Yeah, I've already mentioned how people seem to also ignore helicopters as well, up until the point where it's too late.
It doesn't get ATGMs like a lot of the other ones do, but it does get 2 40mm grenade launchers that fire HEDP.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they? They're good fun. They're good fun.
Against light vehicles in particular, the 40mm are devastating. It also gets a ton of rockets. A single AH-1G can wipe out half a team.
Well, that team wasn't paying attention then, were they? For that, they got themselves into a really bad spot.
Right as they're coming out of spawn. To Gaijin, this isn't an issue, because they actively promote it.
Well, I mean, War Thunder, the real game of War Thunder is finding the most overpowered vehicle and exploiting it. I mean, that's basically what War Thunder has always been to me. I mean, look at the Harriers, for example, the GR1 especially.
Even if the AH-1 doesn't kill anything, The 40mm are very effective at destroying components like barrels, engines, fuel tanks, and tracks.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Flying at treetop level, the amount of time you have to react to a Cobra is significantly reduced.
I mean, if only there was some way of knowing that there was a helicopter behind that tree. If only.
The same can be said for other helis that rush with rockets and cannons. When you get to higher tier helis, there are, I would say, 3 main culprits. I shouldn't need to tell you that the Ka-50 is one of them.
Yeah, but it's fun to be reminded of just how pay to win this game is.
It doesn't have any thermal imaging, and gets less ATGMs than the Apache. While the Ka-50 does get less missiles, they are much more powerful than Hellfires. They outrange Hellfires by around 2 kilometers, and can also be used against aircraft. The Ka-50 is also extremely durable.
Yeah, it's not that durable. Just hit a tree.
Then there's the Tiger UHT, which is arguably the most overpowered helicopter in the game.
Yeah, if you want to defeat the UHT, all you gotta do is get close to it. I mean, with the lack of an autocannon, it makes it incredibly difficult to defend yourself, and the pass-through missile is very unlikely to kill a tank in one go. Usually it'll take several hits, and since the pass-through missile is so slow, you can generally just smoke up and hide away.
The Tiger has access to 8 Pars 3 missiles, which are fire and forget. You can essentially just mouse over the enemy team while pressing spacebar, duck behind cover, and get upwards of 3 or 4 kills.
Yeah, I know, that's kind of the case with the pass-through, but the truth is, you just gotta keep your eyes open, and more often than not, one missile won't kill you, so you generally have time to deploy the smoke. As soon as you break the line of sight, you'll be okay.
Heli EC isn't much better. I haven't tried to play it since 2019, and man, was that a good decision.
Yeah, helicopter enduring combat is just pure pay to win at this point. If you're not in the Ka-50, it's basically going to be a horrible time. It's basically a dead game mode. If you want to grind helicopters, it's generally better just to do it in RB. There's also that arcade event as well that you can also grind things out, but that's quite slow. My video editing software has crashed like 40 times now. Well, anyway, subscribe, bye.